is a ting tang, and it has the facilities also for repeating the hours and quarters. So in fact it's a quarter repeater ting tang. The striking operates on a count wheel, and for the moment at least, in getting an overview of how it works, you can ignore the repeater mechanism over here altogether. That has no part to play in the normal functioning of the ting tang striking mechanism. No part to play. Okay? Now, as you know, with a ting tang, at quarter past the hour, two notes are struck on a high and a low bell, or a high and a low note. At half past, ting tang, ting tang. At quarter to, ting tang, ting tang, ting tang. Then at the hour, the hammer that strikes the high bell is held clear, and it actually strikes the hour on the low note only. So to facilitate that, if we look at the back of the clock, on the minute wheel here, we can see that there is a cam here, and when we come to striking the hours, the cam actually lifts this lever here, which pushes that end in. When that end is pushed in, the effect it has is to lift one of the hammers clear of the hammer lifting pin. Now if I turn the minute wheel, perhaps we can see this happening. I'm turning the minute wheel now, and as I turn it, can you see the arbor has just slid across in that direction? So bring it back again. There, it's now come back into mesh again. So bringing it forward, here we go. The arbor moves forward. So what it actually does is it lifts one of the hammers free of the hammer lifting wheel. If we could get a closer shot of it, we'd see in here that we've got two lifters there. The pin is in this plane, so that while the two lifters are in the path of the pins on the lifting wheel, the lifters will lift both pins. But if we were to slide this arbor forward, this is clear of the pin, but this one isn't, therefore this one only lifts. And that will make sure that only one hammer is used during that sequence, and that occurs at the hour. Now if we, just a little reminder of what it was then. On the minute wheel, we have a cam, so that just before striking the hour, this lever here is lifted, that end goes forward, moving one of the hammers clear of the hammer lifting wheel, and therefore it will not operate. But at the other three quarters, that is quarter past, half past and quarter to, then both hammers operate to give us the ting tang. Now looking at the front of the clock then, we've got the locking plate here, and the clock is about to strike quarter past. Therefore we should have the, I brought in the plane now. When I showed you the other side, I didn't point out to you that in fact the centre wheel is broken, the cannon pinion isn't there, and so the wheels are not in the right relative positions. But I'm now holding the minute wheel in the right position, so that the hammer arbor is clear, one of the hammer arbors is clear of the lifting pin, so it's only going to strike on one hammer. And the clock is about to strike 4. Now on the back of this piece here we've got 4 pins that are the equivalent to the lifters on a cannon pinion. So one of the pins there can lift the lifting piece here, which in turn operates the hook here and the warning detent, so that the train is unlocked, warning occurs, and then a slight further turn, the train is free, and now strikes 4 in fact on one hammer. There is another fault on the clock in that one of the pins is missing in the hammer lifting wheel, so the clock probably has just struck 3, but in actual fact it would have struck 4 had the missing pin been there. We still have to repair this clock. Now, at the next quarter, so for that purpose I'll continue to turn the minute wheel. The minute wheel is connected to this by an arbor passing between the plates. So this is equivalent of turning the hands. So now another pin on the back of this piece is going to lift the lifting piece. We've just had the warning, and now at quarter past, now we have ting tang struck on 2 hammers. So on our locking plate, the hook here is simply dropped into the space. But just here, the next time it strikes, we've got a projection here which will prevent the locking detent from falling, so we get 2 hammers passing. So it will be ting tang, ting tang. Warning. Clear. Ting tang, ting tang. And our hook has now dropped into the next space. Now we see we have on the periphery of the wheel a slightly wider block upstanding, which is going to allow the locking wheel to make now 3 revolutions. In actual fact it's 1.5, because the locking wheel doesn't have just 1 pin in it, it has 2 pins, so that for 1 blow the wheel will make half a revolution. So in fact for 3 o'clock it would make 1.5 revolutions, for 4 o'clock 2 revolutions. Anyway, we are now going to strike, that's the hour, that was quarter past, half past, quarter to, I believe now.
Half past, it should be quarter to now.
Right,
Yeah.
so the next lifter, we just had the warning, now the train is free, and so we have ting tang, ting tang, ting tang. So that is now quarter to the hour, in fact it's quarter to 3. So with the next turn here, we find that once again the cam on the minute wheel throws the second hammer forward, clear of the pins in the lifting wheel, so 1 hammer will not operate, and then we should have 3 o'clock on 5 o'clock, I mean, 4, 5. So we now have 5 o'clock being struck on the 1 hammer. So this locking plate then, instead of being divided up to strike either just the hours or the hours and the half hours, the locking plate has further cutouts to accommodate quarter past, half past and quarter to at each hour. So whereas a normal locking plate is divided into, I think, 70 or 92, this will be so many more to accommodate
12 for
extra.
the hours, 3 for the
That's right,
quarters.
and there'll be 12 of them.
Yeah.
So it'll be another 36
yeah, altogether.
divisions. Now let's move on and have a look at the repeating side. Now on the repeating side we have a little pull here which winds a spring every time we want to repeat what has happened. Now for example, if there are no quarters past, in other words, if supposing it was 4 o'clock, the clock would repeat 4 blows on 1 hammer. If it were, say, just turned quarter past 4, it would strike 4 blows to show that 4 o'clock has passed, and ting tang once, being the nearest quarter to show that it's approximately 4:15. It will chime the nearest quarter.
But they are struck on two separate hammers, albeit to the same sound. They're two separate hammers, and you supply the power
We supply
to
the
a
power,
spring,
yes.
which
Yes.
then operates
Yes.
it. You're not stealing from the main
No,
power supply.
no, it's not driven by the
Okay,
time
thank
side
you.
at all.
Mm.
Every time you pull this string
Yeah.
like this, you are winding the repeater spring. The time side and the strike side are unaffected. Now, you have another hammer lifting wheel over here, and supposing it was just midnight, so there are no hours. I hope that's right.
I was going to say
But
there
it's
should be
just
12,
it's
but
00, it's 0012
yeah, that appeals more to John than I.
right? So what would happen is that the wheel carrying the pins that do the lifting would turn such that when it turns in reverse, in fact, when it operates to drive the hammers, there are pins associated in that wheel such that we get a ting tang. And it doesn't matter how many times you pull this lever under those circumstances, you still get just a ting tang.
So
But-
it is turning it back to the position
Yes.
it was on the last striking,
That's
and
right.
that is your datum. It goes back to the
Yes,
last one.
except
and
that
then
a
it's
different
run-
train is being used.
Yeah. But it is used as your stopping point.
Right.
It's the last one. Yeah, okay. So
Now-
It's like it works on a
Yeah.
24-hour clock.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, it works a bit like a timer,
yeah,
in that you wind the spring up
yeah.
and then the thing reverses back
Yeah.
to run back down again. So when you wind the spring up, your hammer lifting wheel is reversing to wind the spring up. So it can only come back as far as you wind it.
Yeah.
So if you give it the smallest wind possible, only one pair of lifters will operate, or one lifter on two hammers, so you get a ting tang. But if the hour has advanced a little bit, so we're just past 1/2 something if you like, then when you wind it, the lifting wheel will turn a little bit further, allowing ting tang, ting tang.
So
And if you wind it a little bit further still, you get ting tang, ting tang, ting tang.
what you're actually saying is that works actually on the hour. So if there's 1/4 and you pull it down, it won't go any more than a quarter anyway.
No, that's right. It will
It
only,
won't go as far as a
well,
quarter. no
it
matter
depends what hour it is, mine, but we have to take the hours into account as well.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is that each time we wind that spring, if it's 4 o'clock,
I'll give you 4 strikes.
the hammer lifting wheel reverses far enough to allow 4 striking pins to pass, plus whatever number of quarters there are. So in fact, every time you pull this at a different hour, you actually wind it by a different amount. But in actual fact, what happens is that on the locking, you have locking here with this lever here buffing against that boss there and engaging between various pins here. So that at 1/4, the locking of the train happens there as you see it. Now if I turn the clock around to the next quarter, the train can now wind a little bit further and the locking occurs 1 pin out there. We turn it forward to the next quarter, instead of locking there, this one
Out yet
here will come out to the next
That's
gap.
a drop-out file there.
So it means that the repeater train is running down a little further with each quarter that passes. Now the next quarter, which is the 3 quarters if you like,
Yeah.
when we pull the repeat mechanism, we've operated the structure there. When we pull the repeat mechanism, this now can run down a little bit further still.
And the stopping is done by that curved detent going between
Yes,
pins 3
there
and 4.
and
I
jamming
think it
there.
is.
Right.
I've-
So when this repeater mechanism turns a little bit like that, we only have, I didn't turn it quite far enough, but we only have like them in between there. But you know, what we're saying really is that if you pull this by a certain amount, you get a ting tang. If you wind it a little further, it runs down a little further, so you get ting tang ting tang. If you wind it a little further still, you get ting tang ting tang ting tang.
I've got one maybe a silly question or an awkward question, or which the only way if you pull it to get the time,
Yeah.
say it's 2 o'clock,
Yes.
2 o'clock,
Yes.
and you pull it again the next time it's about 7 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
which is about 6
Yeah.
hours further on. How does that
Yeah.
work on that?
Well, I am getting to that.
Okay.
I thought you were going to ask another question a minute. I thought you were going to say, what if I don't pull it hard enough? Well, in some repeater mechanisms, there's a piece called an all or nothing piece. So either you wind it by the right amount and release it, or it doesn't go at all.
To go
Yeah.
no good
Okay?
device.
This
Yeah.
clock doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So if you don't pull the string quite all the way, then you get a false.
For some reason, when you do it, I just got a beautiful vision of it going to the stop and then right
Right.
back as well.
Now, the way the hours are catered for is that you wind this even further for 1 o'clock, a bit further still for 2 o'clock, a bit further still for 3 o'clock. So you have, when we strip the clock, we will see that in the hammer lifting wheel, the lifters are not equally spaced. And you'll also find that they are not at the same length, because the pins have different functions. Now, to link the two up now, what will happen is this. When we pull the repeat mechanism, we really want to control how far we wind this piece. Now that is controlled by, first we're pulling there. Now the tail on here will butt into one of these steps on this involute curve. And which tail it butts into will depend upon how far this falls into these cams. Now what should happen is that at 11 o'clock, say, the tail of this piece will fall into a corresponding 11 o'clock step, which will allow the 11 on this one to operate. That is, this will wind far enough for 11 hammer blows, plus whatever it needs for the
snare
floor.
controlling the position of the thing on another snare.
Looking at that, that's what I was going to say. It's
Yeah.
just, I just realised there's
You
like a snail with the steps in it.
That's right.
You got
Yeah.
snail.
This snail is controlling which snail over here is engaged.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
That is another fault on this clock.
I just noticed that was a snail.
Now, from the explanation that I've given you, I don't expect you to understand all there is to know about the clock, but it does give you an overview. And when we actually strip the clock and repair it, some of the missing parts we can replace, and we can give you a better overview of how the whole thing works.
Missing parts, presumably if you draw them, may we have a go at making them, or do you want to make them all yourself?
Well, no, the missing parts are, well, I think I'll switch the camera off in a minute.
I'm going to say a sudden clock won't have any, won't